Alright, this is 1.6 notes on if statements. Contents in this document, you'll be able to use if statements. You'll be able to use else if statements. You'll be able to determine the difference between else and else if. And you'll be able to use user input with if statements. Alright. So with if statements, it's exactly how it sounds. If Johnny earns an A in the exam in all his classes, then mom is going to buy him a car for his birthday. So in other words, if Johnny earns an A in all his classes, then mom is going to buy him a car for his birthday. If Johnny doesn't earn an A in all his classes, then mom is not going to buy a car for his birthday. So if statements in computer science are the same story. It's an if statement. So let's go File, New. Come on now. Alright, File, New, and we're going to call this if underscore statements .py. And we're going to write a nice little if statement. So if we're going to get instead of doing if right away, we're going to say feels good is equal to true. So a nice little Boolean statement. And then an if statement. If feels good is equal to true, then we're going to print out I feel good. So what's going on here? So we made a variable called feels good. We're going to say it's true. If feels good is equal to true, then we're going to print out I feel good. So I just use the Boolean there. We run it. You see in our output console, our Python console, I feel good. Pops right out. The same thing will pop out instead of saying a Boolean of true. Let's say feels good equals A. Is equal to A. Is equal to A. Then the same story will run. I feel good. Now if I said if feel good feels B is equal to B, in other words they don't match up, it's not going to print out I feel good. So they have to match up. If this variable is in fact what it says it is, it's going to print out. Same story with Booleans. If this is false, this is true. As you predict, the I feel good does not appear in the console. And same story that goes with numbers. If I say that's 3, and I say it's equal to 3, it does print out when they're the same. And if I said that this is 4, since they're different, it's not going to print out. So it's saying if feel goods is equal to 4, I feel good, but feels good is really just 3 in this case. So that's why it did not print out. Why don't you try 1 and 2, and we're going to talk about else if next. Alright, so let's do a new file. I'm going to call this one ELIF, as in else if statements.py. And up top, we're going to create a variable called feels good is equal to G. And then if feels good is equal to G, then we're going to print out feel good. There we go. Now, else if comes in handy if you have multiple if statements. It's always best or good practice if there's a second if statement or a third if statement. The second and third if statements really turn into else if. ELIF for else if. So else if feels good is equal to B. We're going to print out I feel bad. As you see here, now we're going to run else if statement, I feel good. If I change that variable of G into B, I feel bad. That's else if, and if we wanted to do more, we could do more. Else if, we'll still do the same variable. Feels good is equal to Devils. Let's go Devils. So I change that variable to be Devils. Forwards feels good. So then it says let's go Devils because feels good is Devils. So it popped out this print statement. All right, why don't you try 3 and you try 4 on your own, and then we're going to move forward. All right, next we're going to talk about what is the purpose of an else statement. So why don't we do another one? File, new, Python file. Let's type purpose underscore else.py. So the purpose of an else statement is if your condition doesn't satisfy any of the if statements or the if statements to satisfy the condition. If they don't, then we have to have an else statement, so like a fall to or a default. So an else statement's kind of like a default statement reply. So for example, let's keep on doing feels good. It feels good. So we're going to continue what we had before. And then else if feels good. Bad. I'm going to do an else statement. Now I don't do else there. I want to do else aligned with the ifs. So be else, and then print. Have a nice day. So notice how these are indented. So the print statement falls inside the if statement. This print statement will only happen if this if statement is being run, and this information will not. I also like doing spaces in between. If this variable turns out not to be G, if it turns out to be B, this else if statement will run, and it's going to print out I feel bad. Anything else, if it's not G, it's not B, let's say it's T, that's when it's going to fall into the else statement. Oops, I left one of those out. Let's try that again. There we go, have a nice day. So T fell, since it's not a G or a B, let's have a nice day. If I type in G, just like we see before, it says I feel good. If I type in B, I feel bad. If I type in any letter at all, let's say W, the else statement will just catch if it doesn't satisfy any ifs or the else ifs. It'll catch it and say, hey, okay, this is what we're going to print out as a default. So that's a W. So this is not a G or a B, it's a W, so it falls into there. That's the purpose of an else. Now, the question of what is the difference between else and else if? The difference between else and else if is that the else statement doesn't need a condition, as if it is the default for everything, whereas else if is still an if, so it needs a condition. So difference between else and else if. Else doesn't need any conditions. As you can see here, there's no little conditions after the else statement because it's a catch-all. And else if needs an actual condition. So that's the difference between the two. Why don't you try you try 5 and you try 6, and then we're going to move forward. Alright, next up we're going to talk about user input with the if statements. So why don't we do file, another new one. Python file. Let's say user underscore input underscore if underscore statements dot py. Now, that first line, let's still do the same usual. Variable feels good. To collect user data, we use the word keyword input. So it'll be input. And this is the statement that we're going to send to the user of how do you feel. G for good and B for bad. It feels good. I'm going to do a lot of the same code here. So I'm going to hit the pause button and then we'll fast forward. Alright, so I just typed in if statement. So feels good, input. So it types in G, type in B. There we go. And we have a little else statement. So we're doing the same thing that we're doing, we just incorporated some user input. So how do you feel? G for good, B for bad. So I'm going to say G, and when we hit enter, it should appear as I feel good. If we run our program again, and my user input is B for bad, and hit enter, I feel bad. If I don't do G or B, let's say I do H, it says have a great day because it's not G or B. Now let's say your user types in good. It goes down to the else statement and it says have a great day because it has to be exactly what you type in here. It has to be a lowercase g. If I did uppercase G, have a great day, it goes down to the default. So whatever's being typed in here, this exact thing has to be typed in to get this statement. This exact thing has to get this statement. Anything else is going to say have a nice day. So you got to be careful when you're coding. And that's the user input being used. Why don't you try the you try 7 and you try 8, and then why don't you work on your classwork. If you have any questions, feel free to come up and ask. All right, have yourself a great day. Bye.